Before you scroll away, ask yourself this. What would you risk for your right to learn? A book? A dream? Your life? In a small valley in northern Pakistan, a young girl dared to answer that question. Her name is Malala Yousafzai, and her courage would echo across the world. If you believe that stories like this deserve to be heard, take a second now to like this video and subscribe. It might seem like a small gesture, but it tells the YouTube algorithm that this kind of story matters, that voices like Malala's and millions of others still fighting for education deserve to be amplified. Your click helps keep her message alive. Now, let's return to where it all began. The Valley of Swat, a land of breathtaking beauty, carved by rivers and guarded by snow-capped mountains. It was there, on July 12, 1997, that Malala was born into a home filled with words, books, and a father's unshakable belief in equality. Ziauddin Yousafzai, a teacher and activist, ran a small school and believed education was the key to freedom. While many saw daughters as a burden, he saw in Malala a promise, a light that could change their world. From the time she could speak, Malala loved learning. She would sit quietly, listening to her father's speeches, absorbing his conviction that a pen was more powerful than any weapon. She dreamed of becoming a teacher, of building schools, of giving other girls what so many were denied, a chance. But outside their home, the world was changing. The Taliban's shadow was spreading across Swat. They banned music, destroyed televisions, and began burning down girls' schools. Fear became a language everyone understood, except Malala. At just 11 years old, she began to write secretly for the BBC, using a fake name to protect her identity. She described her fear of walking to school, the sound of bombs echoing through the night, and the ache of seeing classrooms turn to rubble. Her words reached the world, but her voice, still young and soft, carried a message stronger than any weapon. That silence was no longer an option. This was the beginning of a revolution, born from one child's courage. A voice that refused to be silenced. By 2009, the situation in Swat had grown darker. The Taliban's grip was nearly absolute. The sound of gunfire and explosions replaced the songs of birds and the laughter of children. Yet Malala continued to attend school, clutching her books tightly, as if they were shields. Each day could have been her last, but she refused to surrender her dream. Her writings caught attention beyond Pakistan. Journalists and activists began to speak her name, the anonymous girl who wrote with bravery beyond her years. Malala's identity was eventually revealed, and she began to appear on local television, demanding education for girls. Her words were simple, yet they carried the power of truth. "How can the Taliban take away my basic right to education?" she asked. That question became a challenge, not just to her oppressors, but to a world that often looked away. Her courage inspired students, teachers, and women across the globe. But it also placed a target on her back. The Taliban issued threats, labeling her a symbol of Western influence. Malala, still a teenager, continued to speak, believing words could never be as deadly as bullets. But one day the two would meet. It was October 9th, 2012. The morning air in Mingora was calm, and the yellow school bus was filled with chatter and laughter. Malala sat beside her friends, talking about homework and future dreams. The bus slowed down as it turned a corner, and suddenly, everything changed. A masked man boarded the bus and demanded to know, "Who is Malala?" The silence that followed felt endless. Then a single finger pointed. 3 shots rang out. One struck Malala in the head, another wounded her friends. The gunman fled, leaving behind chaos and screams. For hours, her life hung in the balance. She was rushed to a local hospital, then flown to a military facility, and finally to Birmingham, England, where doctors fought to save her. News spread worldwide. The girl who had written about her right to education was now fighting for her right to live. Vigils appeared in cities around the world. Millions prayed for a child they had never met, but somehow felt they knew. Against all odds, Malala survived. When she awoke, her first concern was not her wound, it was her school books. Her voice, once soft, had now become unstoppable. The bullet that was meant to silence her had instead amplified her message to the world. Months passed. Malala endured surgeries, therapy, and the pain of recovery far from home. But even as her body healed, her determination burned brighter. From her hospital bed, she began to write again. The world watched as she transformed from victim to advocate. Her story had crossed borders, igniting conversations about education, extremism, and equality. In 2013, she founded the Malala Fund, an organization dedicated to ensuring every girl in the world has access to 12 years of free, quality education. She stood before presidents, prime ministers, and global leaders, her voice steady, her purpose unshakable. In her first speech at the United Nations, she said, "One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world." The audience rose to its feet, not out of pity, but in admiration. Her fight was no longer for herself, but for every child denied the right to dream. From refugee camps to classrooms rebuilt after war, Malala's name became a symbol of courage. But behind the spotlight, she remained a girl who missed her home, her mountains and her school friends, a reminder that even heroes long for ordinary moments. In 2014, just 2 years after surviving the attack, Malala Yousafzai became the youngest person ever to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. At only 17 years old, she stood on stage in Oslo, wearing a traditional shalwar kameez and shawl, holding her speech with hands that once trembled, but now carried the weight of the world's hope. Her words reminded humanity of something simple, yet profound, that peace and education are inseparable. She shared the prize with Kailash Satyarthi, an Indian activist who fought against child labor, a symbol of unity between two nations often divided by history. Malala's Nobel Prize was not the end of her story. It was a new beginning. She continued her education at Oxford University, studying philosophy, politics, and economics, the same subjects studied by world leaders. Yet she never forgot her mission. While others saw her as an icon, she saw herself as a student, one among millions still denied a classroom. Malala's journey continued to evolve. She traveled to countries where girls still walked miles just to reach a school that might not even exist tomorrow. She listened to their stories, their fears, and their dreams. In each of them, she saw a reflection of her younger self, the girl with a backpack and a stubborn belief in change. Through her foundation, she funded schools in Pakistan, Afghanistan, Nigeria, and beyond. She met with refugees in camps across the Middle East, reminding them that education was not just about learning, it was about dignity and freedom. Her calm voice and unwavering resolve made her a moral compass for a generation growing up in uncertainty. Yet Malala remained humble. She often said she wanted to be known not as the girl who was shot, but as the girl who fought. Her laughter, her love for cricket, and her dreams of one day returning to SWAT revealed that courage does not erase humanity, it deepens it. Today, Malala Yousafzai stands as a symbol of resistance, compassion, and the belief that a single voice can reshape the world. From the Valley of Swat to the halls of Oxford, her journey reminds us that courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to act despite it. Her story is not just about education or about one girl defying the Taliban. It is about the universal right to dream, to learn, to speak, and to live freely. Every child silenced by oppression carries a spark that can one day light up the world. Malala's spark became a flame that refuses to die. Her life continues, writing books, advocating for change, and standing beside young leaders who follow in her footsteps. The fight is far from over, but because of her, millions now believe that it can be won. And perhaps that is her greatest legacy, reminding us that the most powerful weapon on earth is not a gun, but a girl with a book. Malala Yousafzai's story is proof that even in the darkest times, one voice can spark a global movement. She taught the world that education is more than a lesson, it is liberation. Her courage transcended borders, her wounds became wings, and her words became light for millions still walking in shadows. If you've been moved by her story, take a moment to reflect. What would you stand up for, even when the world tells you to sit down? Because somewhere, another Malala is waiting, perhaps in your own neighborhood, perhaps in your own heart. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what part of Malala's journey inspired you most. Your voice too can make a difference. Thank you for watching, and never forget, change begins the moment you believe that your voice matters.